Overall, our free admission policy has made an impact, but we can't stop there. As several members said just now, it's not just about the numbers or the visitorship. We also want Singaporeans to have a meaningful time at our museums so that they will return. And as Mr. Arthur Fong said just now, we want our museums to be a must-see stop for visitors as well. So I agree with members that we must invest in quality and content. That's why we are setting aside more resources for conservation, for acquiring of new collections, and that's why we are embarking on two major projects on the occasion of our 50th anniversary. First, the National Museum. The museum serves as an important civic function in engaging Singaporeans on our national history, so it must resonate with the people. And we find that stories tend to work best. Mr. Alex Yam spoke earnestly about this earlier in the budget debate. He urged us to help these stories live on, simple, heartfelt stories of ordinary men and women that embody the pioneering spirit, and I agree with him. That's why we aim to design a new experience in the museum that will capture more of what we call everyday heritage. Heritage taken not only from the grand pages of history, but from the lives of ordinary citizens. In particular, the Singapore Memory Project has collected stories from Singaporeans from all walks of life. So we will showcase a selection of these memories in the museum. Stories are told not just in words, but in seemingly simple objects as well. And we will feature more of this in the museum too. This year, the museum has been collaborating with MediaCorp on a TV program called Treasure Hunt, where we invite Singaporeans to contribute their own artifacts that are part of our national heritage. And we've received many interesting collections, old campaign posters, football medals from the 1977 Malaysia Cup, and personal items from the early days of national service. And these are objects which many of us can relate to, and they tell a very personal history of Singapore. Most of the memories that Singaporeans have shared hark back to the post-independence era, when we were finding our feet as a young nation. So the new museum experience will provide more glimpses into Singapore's history post-1965. And I think this is a natural and significant step in our telling of the Singapore story. It's a story that must expand over time and that all Singaporeans must know. Central to this is to make the museum a place young Singaporeans remember growing up with and would want to go to. So we are introducing a new wing at the National Museum called Play at NMS, which will be dedicated to children and young families. And this new wing will open in May this year, and it will put us on a good start for the broader museum revamp, which will be ready by next year. The next project is the Asian Civilisations Museum. As Singaporeans, we ought to know what has shaped us, how the confluence of Asian cultures in the region has driven the way Singapore interacts with the world. So the museum plays a different but also important role in understanding our national context. The ACM will undergo quite a transformation. For a start, we are redesigning the lobby, introducing new shops and dining options, and expanding the permanent galleries. This will give us more exhibition space for important artifacts. For instance, we will bring in the Tang Cargo, a selection of over 50,000 objects salvaged from the Java Sea that testify to our past as a center of trade in Asia. One of the expanded spaces is the China Gallery, which should be completed next year, and you can see a picture of it on the screen. I'm glad that the private sector has stepped forward to help fund this additional gallery, or the expanded gallery, and the building will inject a fresh and modern element into the otherwise classical architecture of the museum. Meanwhile, we are also exploring a new entrance for the ACM that opens onto the Singapore River. We may combine this with a new gallery space that will breathe more light into the museum. And this needs a bit more study, but it's a potential game changer for the museum. It will open the museum to many more visitors and convert it into a vibrant offering along the waterfront. And not to mention, this would connect the museum to the historic heart of Singapore. These are some of our ministry's efforts leading up to the 50th anniversary. But the celebration is not just about what MCCY wants to do. It is for all Singaporeans to decide the true spirit of SG50 and what it means to be a Singaporean in this important phase of our nation's journey.